Hey, it's Mercenaries, welcome back to another tryout. Today's tryout is on Mercenaries for the original Xbox. Capping off my little month of July original Xbox games thing I decided to do. Here's the fourth one, and this one happens to be another LucasArts game and another Pandemic game by the game developers Pandemic. I've done a handful by those two at this point. Even the last game for July was another LucasArts game on the Indiana Jones and whatnot. So they were apparently a prolific bunch back in the 2000s on the original Xbox. But this game is pretty cool, especially for 2005. I had a friend who would talk about how much he liked Mercenaries 2, but I never really got around to playing that one. So now I've played the first game of the duology there, and it reminds me of, I've played a little bit of Just Cause 2, I've played Red Faction Guerrilla, and the original Red Faction for this series, and it reminds me a bit of those games where you sort of are being put into this civilization in some sort of political, social upheaval turmoil, and you're sort of kind of doing something that puts forth your own agenda to sort of destabilize a government that does bad things. In Red Faction, you're doing it for more political reasons, and Just Cause, you're doing it a bit more because you're a mercenary, and in this case, you are a mercenary. There is even a question on, like, are we being put in, like, a moral position here?
Couldn't this force us into a moral position? I mean, the guy's evil. He capped his own father after the coup. The media are all over it. Anyone operating in this theater is going to be famous.
Maybe, but we're proposing sending in a single operative, low profile. And remember, North Korea is in total chaos. There's press on the ground, sure, but our agent could level half the country and no one would have any idea we were there.
So that's sort of like where it gives me the vibes of like what sort of came in this. The original Just Cause came out in 2006, I think was what I saw, and I can't remember exactly when the original Red Faction came out, because they were all around the same time, I believe, on the original Xbox. So it might have just been a moment in pop culture that influenced these games separately, rather than these games influencing one another. But my problem here is that the controls of this feel pretty dated, and because of that, it's just sort of throwing me off as someone who's used to how we've, in the time since, sort of streamlined what the controls are like on an Xbox controller in particular, to where, like, these games that have, like, B jump and, you know, the controls just aren't figured out yet. Especially when you're going from the original Xbox controller to what I have, which is the Series X controller, the Series Xbox Series controllers, which is pretty much the same as the Xbox One controller, but that controller having the bumpers versus the original Xbox game's white and black buttons can be a bit confusing, because those were face buttons that were used for the sorts of things that you'd use face buttons for back in the day, whereas now they're bumpers that are used like triggers. They're just functionally different these days, and it just ended up tripping me up a lot, and it sucks because you can't adjust the controls in game. It's just the one set control scheme. There are, on the Xbox, there's a function to remap the controller. So maybe I'll remap the controller and play more, but as it stands, without any outside changes, I want to like this game, but it feels like it stumbles over itself in a way that I just would rather play Just Cause 2 instead, or, you know, something, maybe even seek out Mercenaries 2. Something more modern, newer, that's sort of past a point where we've sort of figured out what the controls are for an Xbox controller and all that. And it just is more newer, better, streamlined, more modern, etc. And for that reason, this game fails for now. I might actually come back to it after messing around with the controls in the Xbox to see if I can get it to a control scheme that's more natural to me. But as it is, like, just the game, I feel like it's too dated control-wise, in my opinion. And it's not in a way that is going to be intuitive for anyone who plays modern games in that style. I've become very used to the trigger buttons being your forward and back in a car. Not the case in this. It's A and X is your forward, brake, reverse. All these little things where the controls are just not what I'm used to, and I think in this game it might end up tripping me up the whole game. I don't know. That's just my opinion here. So we'll finish this off with the end bits. Like, subscribe, dislike, leave a comment. Have you played Mercenaries? Have you played any games in the Mercenary series? Have you played any games in this sort of political destruction genre, I guess, like Just Cause and Red Faction? Have you played any of those games? Leave a comment, share the video, do the things. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Kapalachara!